They say cameras never lie, but sometimes what they capture doesn't make sense. A delivery that never happened. A face where no one should be. Footsteps with no body. Tonight, you're about to see what happens when the safety of a lens turns into a window to something darker. These are real stories, found online, captured on security footage, and buried in the corners of the internet. But be warned, once you've seen what they saw, you might never feel alone again. These are security camera stories that shouldn't exist. I've worked as the night security guard for a mid-sized office building on the edge of town for a little over 5 years now. It's not a glamorous job. Quiet mostly, uneventful, the kind of place where you clock in, sip bad coffee, do your rounds, and try not to fall asleep watching the grainy feeds from 10 different security cameras. The building is nothing special. 4 floors of cubicles, copy rooms, and conference tables collecting dust after 6 p.m. The real action is in the lobby. 2 glass doors face the street, flanked by marble columns that look fancier than they have any right to be. That's where camera 1 is focused. That's where he showed up. It was early last winter. A Wednesday, I think. Around 3:03 a.m. I remember the time because I had just settled into my chair with a microwaved burrito and an old VHS tape of some terrible 90s sitcom. I had just pressed play when the monitor buzzed and flickered. Camera 1, front entrance, triggered. I looked up, expecting maybe a stray animal or someone cutting across the parking lot. But no, a man was standing outside the front doors. He wasn't moving, just standing, perfectly still. He wore an old-fashioned charcoal gray suit, dusty and oddly wrinkled, like he'd been wearing it for decades. A wide-brimmed fedora obscured his eyes, casting a deep shadow over half his face. But I could see just enough of his expression to know something was wrong. He was smiling, not a friendly smile, a too wide, too still kind of smile. And then he waved, not quickly, slowly, methodically. His hand lifted, paused midair, and lowered again, then repeated. A wave like he wasn't trying to get anyone's attention, like he already had it. First, I thought it was a prank, maybe some drunk messing around, but he didn't move. He just stood there waving minute after minute like he had all the time in the world. I switched to the interior lobby cam. The doors were locked. No sign of forced entry. Everything looked normal, except for the unease crawling up my spine. I decided to check it out. I grabbed my flashlight and headed to the front. And when I got there, no one was there. The street was empty. The glass doors reflected only my confused face. No footprints in the light dusting of frost on the sidewalk. No sign that anyone had been there at all. I went back to the security room and rewound the footage. And that's when things got weird. On the recorded feed, the man was no longer outside the glass. He was inside. Same expression, same wave, standing just a few feet behind the door inside the lobby, waving at me. But I had just been there. I would have seen him, and the logs showed no motion detection. No doors opened. No alarms tripped. He was just there. I didn't sleep the next day. I spent hours reviewing the footage from earlier that night. Nothing. He simply appeared. No entry. No origin. No explanation. I tried reporting it. The building manager told me not to worry. Said maybe it was a glitch. The police didn't take it seriously either. But the next night he came back. Same time. Same camera. Same slow, unnerving wave. Every night since then, at exactly 3 a.m., he appears. Sometimes he's closer to the camera. Sometimes he turns his head, just slightly, like he's observing me through the lens. Once, he tilted his head all the way to the side, unnaturally far, like a puppet whose strings were pulled wrong. I swear I heard a crack through the monitor. Then, 3 nights ago, something changed. He didn't show up. I kept checking the feed every few minutes, expecting him to appear. He never did. Relief flooded me, but it was short-lived. The next morning, I got a notification on my phone from my home's doorbell camera. Motion detected. Timestamp, 2:59 a.m. I opened the footage with trembling fingers. There he was, standing on my front porch, waving. It was a Friday night, and I was home alone, recovering from a bad flu. I hadn't left my apartment in 3 days, and by then, even canned soup felt like a punishment. So I gave in and ordered takeout, pad thai, egg rolls, and a soda. Comfort food. Something warm and normal. The app said the driver's name was Jason, and that he'd arrive in 25 minutes. Standard stuff. I didn't think twice about it. I went back to my couch and half-watched an old horror movie while keeping an eye on my phone. Exactly 23 minutes later, I got a notification. Your order has been delivered. I went to the door. Nothing. No food. No bag. Not even a knock or a footprint on the welcome mat. I figured it was a glitch. Maybe Jason marked it as delivered by accident. It happens. I opened the app to call him, but the call wouldn't connect. No ring, no voicemail. Just silence. Then I noticed something strange. The map didn't show the usual little icon of the delivery driver's car. Instead, there was just a pin. It was still on my street, but not in front of my apartment. It was across the road, near the edge of the woods, and it wasn't moving. I stared at it for a while, debating whether to go outside. I didn't. I'm not stupid. Instead, I checked my security camera feed. At 9:47 p.m., the exact time my food was supposedly delivered, the front camera caught something. A man walking up the driveway. He wasn't holding a delivery bag. He was empty-handed, pale, wearing a hoodie too thin for the cold. And he never knocked. He just stood in front of the door for exactly 1 minute, staring. Then he turned around and walked back toward the street. But the camera never caught where he went after that. He just vanished into the dark. I reported it to the app and the police. The app refunded me, said they couldn't contact Jason either. The police took a statement, said they'd follow up. They didn't. The next night, I got another notification from the security app. Motion detected. 9:47 p.m. I checked the footage. This time, there was no man at the door. There was just a single item placed carefully in the center of my porch. A cardboard food container, grease-stained and worn, as if it had been sitting in someone's car for years. I opened it. Inside was a crumpled receipt. Date: October 14th, 2016. That was almost 7 years ago. The name on the receipt? Jason. And beneath it, written in faint ink, was a handwritten note. Sorry I'm late. I couldn't leave until someone took my place. That was the last night I slept in that apartment. It started as a silly curiosity. I downloaded a sleep tracking app, one of those that record sounds during the night. I'd read a thread on Reddit where people discovered they talked in their sleep, or even caught weird, unexplained noises. Living alone, I figured it would be fun, maybe even a little spooky. The first few nights were uneventful. A few rustles, a cough, a groggy as I turned over. One night I apparently mumbled, "Where did the cat go? I don't even own a cat." But then came Wednesday night. I woke up groggy, phone still on the nightstand. The app had logged 47 clips. That was abnormal. Usually I'd get 3 or 4. I made coffee and sat down to listen. The first 20 or so were mundane. Blanket shifting, creaking floorboards, the hum of my ceiling fan. Then came clip number 27. The timestamp said 2:49 a.m. It started quiet, then humming. A slow, tuneless hum, just loud enough to recognize. A woman's voice, soft, rhythmic, familiar, uncomfortably familiar, then breathing, heavy, but not mine. I paused it and looked around my apartment. Even though it was morning, bright, and everything looked the same, something about the sound felt too intimate, like someone had been in the room, standing over me. Clip number 28 was worse. More humming, then a faint whisper. "She's almost awake." I slammed the phone down and checked my front door, the windows, the closet, all locked, all untouched, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been observed. That night, I turned on the video feature of the app. I propped my phone up across the room, facing the bed. It was just to prove to myself there was nothing there, just paranoia. The next morning, I woke up before the alarm. I immediately checked the app. It had recorded 2 video clips. The first was 14 seconds, just me turning over. The second was 1 minute and 32 seconds, timestamped 3:12 a.m. I watched. The room was still. I was asleep, barely moving. Then, about 18 seconds in a movement. From the right side of the frame, something slowly leaned into view. A face, a figure, a woman. She stood perfectly still, staring at the bed. Then she turned slightly toward the camera. My breath caught. It was me, my exact face, my exact body. Same oversized hoodie, same frizzy hair I tied up that night, same mole under my eye. The woman knelt by the edge of the bed and whispered something. I couldn't make it out, so I rewound it and cranked up the volume. "Don't open your eyes too soon." She lingered, smiling faintly, then turned to face the camera fully. For a full 5 seconds, she stared straight into the lens, into me. Then she slowly stepped back, still facing forward, until she faded into the shadows of the room, like mist vanishing in sunlight. The clip ended. I sat frozen for nearly an hour. I called my best friend, crying. She tried to calm me down, but when I offered to send the video, the clip was gone. Not corrupted, erased. Only the audio remained. I went to the police and they humored me. They checked the locks, the footage from the building. No signs of forced entry. No one had come or gone. But here's where it gets worse. I've stopped using the app, but I've started to have gaps in my nights. Moments where I wake up standing in the living room. My bedroom door sometimes opens on its own, though I lock it before bed. And this morning, I found my phone recording a selfie video I didn't remember taking. It was just me, staring into the camera, whispering over and over, "Don't open your eyes too soon." I bought the house because of the basement. Strange reason, I know. But as a sculptor, I needed space to work, and the basement had high ceilings, thick walls, and a cool, constant temperature perfect for preserving materials. It was quiet, isolated, just me and my clay. When I moved in, the neighbors were polite but distant. One older woman across the street gave me a strange look when I mentioned I'd be using the basement as a studio. "You might want to bless that space," she said with a nervous smile. "Old houses hold onto things." I laughed it off. The first few weeks were uneventful. I'd lose track of time sculpting, sometimes working until 3 or 4 in the morning. The only odd thing I noticed was a faint smell, like damp earth mixed with iron. I chalked it up to the age of the foundation. Then I started hearing the footsteps, soft, deliberate, pacing. Above me, I live alone. I'd rush upstairs, heart pounding, only to find nothing out of place. Doors locked, windows shut, no sign of entry. One night, I stayed upstairs, lights off, waiting. At exactly 2:17 a.m., I heard them again. 5 slow steps across the kitchen, then silence. The next day, I installed cameras. Everything was fine for 3 days. Then, on the 4th night, I reviewed the footage. There was movement. Not upstairs. Downstairs in the basement just behind where I'd been sculpting. I paused the video. My heart froze. There was a man. He stood perfectly still in the corner, barely within frame. Long, tangled hair, pale skin, wearing what looked like hospital scrubs. He didn't move, didn't blink, just watched me work. And I never noticed. I called the police. They searched the house top to bottom. Nothing. No signs of forced entry, no hidden rooms, no crawl spaces. They thought I was imagining things. But that night, I stayed up with a bat and waited in the dark. At 2:17 a.m., the basement door creaked open. I stepped into the hallway, breath held, and saw him at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at me. "Don't stop sculpting," he said, voice barely a whisper. "It keeps me calm." Then he backed into the shadows and was gone. I moved out the next day, but I kept the footage. I rewatch it sometimes, trying to understand. He never approached, never hurt me, but in the final frame, just before he vanished, he looked into the camera and smiled. And behind him, on the wall, scratched in faint letters, "We live here too." I work night shifts at a remote security post for a small tech company. Most nights, I just watch a bank of monitors showing empty hallways, stairwells, and server rooms. It's boring, but peaceful. Ideal for someone like me who doesn't mind the quiet. We only have 6 security cameras inside the building. One covers the front lobby, and the others are in places no one really visits after hours. My job is to stay awake, monitor the feeds, and report anything unusual. 2 weeks ago, around 3:03 a.m., I saw something I haven't been able to explain. It started in camera 4, which shows a hallway leading to the main conference room. A man entered from the far end. He wasn't an employee. I know everyone who works here. He wore a black hoodie pulled low over his face and walked with slow, deliberate steps. He paused outside the conference room, reached into his hoodie pocket, and pulled out a set of keys. He tried one key. Didn't work. He tried another. Still nothing. Then, after a third failed attempt, he took a step back, looked around, and stared directly at the camera. I leaned closer. His face was still obscured, but it felt like he was aware. Like he wasn't just staring at the camera, but through it. And then the feed glitched. Just a quick flicker. Maybe a half second. When it returned, he was gone. I rewound the footage to make sure I wasn't imagining it. That's when I noticed something even weirder. About 15 minutes earlier, 2:48 a.m., the same man appeared on camera 3, which covers the supply room. He performed the exact same actions. Walk in slowly, pull out keys, try 3, look at the camera. Glitch, vanish. It was like he was doing the same thing in different rooms at different times, but always in the same order. Like he was stuck in a loop. I went back even further in the footage. 2:31 a.m. There he was again, this time on camera 2, by the break room. Same actions, same keys, same final stare. Each time he grew more agitated. His movements became jerkier. He started muttering, though there was no audio. He began tapping the wall, scribbling something with a marker. I checked the hallway the next morning. There was nothing on the walls. But that night he came back. And this time he made it to camera 1, the front lobby. Same routine. But after trying the keys, he looked up at the camera. And this time he smiled. It was the kind of smile that didn't belong to someone lost. It was deliberate, mocking. Then he raised his hand and showed something. A small photo. I couldn't see it clearly, but I swear, it looked like a photo of me, sitting at the desk watching the monitors. And then the screen flickered again. This time it didn't return. All 6 cameras went black for about 20 seconds. When they came back, he was gone. Every room was empty. But every night since, the loops have returned. He goes through them again. Same times, same pattern, until last night. Last night, he didn't start on camera 2 or 3. He started on camera 6. The stairwell right outside the security office. He walked up the stairs slowly. He tried a key in the office door. Then he turned and looked directly at the camera, just a few feet from where I sat, and smiled. The screen flickered, and now, he's in none of the videos. But every time I rewind, I can see myself, sitting at the desk, watching nothing, just staring at static. But when I turn off the monitors, sometimes I hear keys jangling right outside the door. I always take the same route home from work. Same streets, same red lights, same gas station on the corner with the flickering neon sign. It's the kind of routine that lulls your brain into autopilot. So when something changed, I noticed. That night, I stopped at a red light. I remember it clearly because I was humming along to the radio. Some cheesy pop song I hate but know all the words to. There was a car in front of me. An old sedan with a bumper sticker that said, "Keep Portland Weird." A woman in the driver's seat tapped the steering wheel to the beat of her own music. I blinked, and when I opened my eyes again, the light was green, the sedan was gone, and so was the song on the radio. Static. I reached for the dial to fix it, but all I got was white noise. I shrugged it off, figured the station went out, and kept driving. That's when I realized something was off. The gas station on the corner wasn't there. Just an empty lot. No sign, no pumps, no building. Like it had never existed. I slowed down and turned onto my street. More things were wrong. The trees lining the sidewalk looked too tall, like they'd grown 20 years overnight. The house on the corner was painted blue instead of white. The street lamp outside my building, which had been broken for months, was now glowing a dull orange. I parked my car and walked up to my apartment. The keypad lock didn't work. I tried my key, it didn't fit. Before I could panic, the door opened. A man stood there, maybe mid-40s, glasses, confused expression. "Can I help you?" he asked. I stammered. I live here. Apartment 3B. "No," he said, holding up a lease. "I live in 3B. I moved in last year." I backed away and checked the mailbox cluster. No name. Not mine. None of them were. I pulled out my phone to call my sister. Maybe she could help me figure out what was happening. But every number in my contacts list was gone. Just blank names and unfamiliar numbers. I tried logging into Instagram. No account found. Facebook? Profile does not exist. I wasn't locked out, I was erased. I drove to my parents' house next. It's an hour away, but I made the trip in 45 minutes, heart pounding the whole way. Their house was still there, but the front door had a different wreath, and the car in the driveway wasn't theirs. A teenager answered when I knocked. "Do the Harrisons live here?" I asked. "No, they moved out like 10 years ago. My parents bought this place in 2015. I staggered back to my car, tried to think of anyone who might remember me. Friends, co-workers, exes. But their numbers didn't work. Their addresses were wrong. It was like the world had skipped tracks and I was stranded on the wrong one. At dawn, I returned to the intersection, sat at the same light, waited for something, anything to happen. The red light turned green. I blinked, and when I opened my eyes, the gas station was back. The neon sign flickered. The bumper sticker was there again. "Keep Portland Weird." Same woman in the sedan. Same song on the radio. It was like the night had never happened. I rushed home. Everything was normal. My key worked. My name was on the lease. My phone had contacts again. I was back. But now, every time I blink at a red light, I wonder, Which version of the world will be waiting when I open my eyes? Maybe it was just a glitch. Maybe the camera caught something explainable eventually. Or maybe what we saw was never meant to be recorded. One thing's for sure. The next time you check your footage, the scariest part might not be what you see, but what you missed. If you've had a strange moment caught on camera, or something you just can't explain, tell us in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because here at Real Weird Things, we keep watching, even when no one else is.